Amandla uzabalaza 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 Amandla hiyo leba ngosatha yamemezinzi yathume madlebe hiyo lehlanyisa umfazi baba ngame leba ngosatha osamthathu zo osambeke lutho sathumfuka msholo uzusiphathe ngothu sathumfuka msholo uzusiphathe ngothu hiyo leba ngisatha yameme zinzini yathume madlebe sathi mfuka msholo uzusiphathe ngoqu usamthathu zo.
Welcome our guest. I'm told I shouldn't say who's the guest because you see these things of the organizations are problematic. But I know that when he's done from that level, I'll call him to. And then the other one was in Cape Town. He also died while he was no longer having legs. And Oscar Mbeta likes this song.
Hard for that man and ensure that that man, ANC, because that is tantamount to tribalism, in COSATU, because he is indeed one of us, is to defend the resolutions at Polokwane, the policy outcomes of Polokwane, and the leadership elected at Polokwane. That we must defend that leadership, work with that leadership. So when we're working with this leadership now, we're not confused. We're doing exactly what we have said we'll do. We will work with this leadership. We will be critical at that leadership. But when we are critical, we shall be constructive in criticizing that leadership. We shall defend it from the new tendency that had sought at that time to want to dislodge the leadership. We shall continue to work with the leadership until at a time when we shall make an assessment. I've dared this policy conference because we say you will do those tasks until you go to your own Congress in September and go to Mangaung. What do you do when you reach Mangaung? Ngamalala, come and address these workers because at Mangaung we shall be there.
Thank you very much, comrades, and thank you very much, Comrade President. Dlamini, the President of Nahau, and all of his bearers, the leadership of Nahau in its entirety, delegates, comrades and friends who are here. Thank you for the opportunity indeed. And I must really apologize that I came too late. There are things that you cannot avoid in life. One of them is death. And if there's death, you stop everything. I had to attend a funeral this morning of one of the Zuma seniors. As you know, things don't move according to the clock because there are many things that have to be done. And I'm saying this because this day has a lot of other activities that I must still go to, and therefore won't be in a position to listen to the debates. So mine is going to be quite brief today. I wish I had half a day to deal with the matters that bother me as one of you. The definition of being a worker, not a worker, is a debatable point if we put it that way. Because you could be a worker because you are a worker, you are employed, and the employment comes in various fashions. At times you are employed by the employer, at times you are deployed, but also you could remain in the working class, even if you are not necessarily a member of the trade union, but you belong to a working class. But you can also belong to the working class in terms of ideas that you cherish, you are part of the working class ideas, strategies, and philosophies, or whatever. So I'm just saying it is plain in many ways. So when I say I'm a worker, I mean it in reality. And I will die a worker. Firstly, let me congratulate Nahau for really becoming an adult in the serious sense. Once you turn 25, you are recognized as an adult. You can be left alone now to take your own decisions. It's unlike when you are 18. You are given a right to participate in the decision making, like voting, joining in the main in our own life, joining the ANC mother body. And when you are 21, I'm told you are given a key to be free to do whatever you want to do, to have your own place. But once you become 25, we begin to look at you as a person who must start a family. You're almost there. Not so. So it is worth really congratulated that you have reached this point and you have made your mark in the trade union movement as Nahau, among the affiliates of COSATU. We have maintained very clear political line at all material times. And in other words, the congratulation is not just of the age only, but it's of the role you have played, and that we wish you should continue playing within the life of the trade union movement in our country. So I would like to say congratulations indeed, once more. We believe as a union, you stand where you are firmly, not shaking, very firmly. And that's what is important. As long as where you stand, it is on correct principles and policies. Very important. Well, comrades, given the fact that we don't have a lot of time, I'll just maybe talk briefly about the issues, maybe, that are going to be debated in the ANC policy conference. To us, That is one of the most important activities of this year as we celebrate the centenary of the ANC, which has given us, by the way, an opportunity to look back at the relationship between the ANC and the working class in this country at its different formations. We have been able to do so ably because we have taken a decision to celebrate the ANC for the whole of 2012, centering it around its presidents, but another very powerful leaders who did not necessarily become presidents of the ANC, but some of them probably more capable than those who held the positions of the ANC presidency. Many of these emerged from the working class and came from the working class to influence the ANC and made the ANC to be what it is. Among them, Moses Kotane, whose history has not been written sufficiently. How he influenced, firstly, the South African Communist Party, which was the Communist Party of South Africa, as an individual and within the collective, made the South African Communist Party to begin to define the South African Revolution differently from how other Marxists interpreted their own concrete conditions, and therefore began to introduce a culture of workers who are political in the country, and also defined the type of a trade union movement that must emerge. There were other unions that were there and federations, and he was at the heart of that. He was very clear what he was doing, and therefore began, not just by theory, but by conduct, to shape the African National Congress to be what it is today. A great man, a great leader, one of the best theoreticians we've ever had in our country. Very much independent in his thinking. Everything that he concluded went through a process of thought. He never agreed because somebody else said something. You had to convince Moses Kotane on facts, not on emotions. These are the leaders we felt is a moment to celebrate our 100 years. I'm singling out this particular leader because he was a giant, a colossal. He's one of those who was the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. At the same time, the ANC National Treasurer. And these two never contradicted the other. If anything, they complemented each other. In other words, he sat at the level of the office bearers of the party, where policy begins, but also sat at the level of the 6 top officials of the ANC, where policy begins. No contradiction. If anything, if there was, it would have been a constructive one. It would have been the one that we need. Because don't run away when people talk about contradictions. They are not the same, all of them. They are different. Absolutely. Some contradictions produce progress. Some don't. This theory I was taught by an old man, a peasant, who said, in Zulu, ukuphikisana kwenyawo mfana wami olunye luthi imphambili 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 ukwenza ukuthi ufike la uyakhona. It's a very healthy contradiction, because if you are standing in one place, you will never move. So I'm saying, once people say there are contradictions, you must listen again what type of contradictions people are talking about. Some are misunderstood by other people. Comrades, I thought I would just say a few things about it there for the conference. Not the conference per se, the national conference. And bear in mind, as I've been emphasizing this, we, the ANC, we are the only political entity in this country that goes to a national policy conference in a big way. Not just the ANC only, with the entire alliance to participate, to emerge with even better policies. That's the reason why no political entity can have better policies than us, because we give ourselves time to debate these policies and emerge with what would have been tested in the debate as policy. Therefore, going to that conference, you need to be prepared, whatever part of the broader alliance you are, so that you can make the contribution for the better of this country. I'm going to comment briefly on one important document among these, the second transition. The second transition. Because you can read all the documents, but the documents you need to read. Critical at our level. The second transition. I think that's the title of the document. This policy document, the second transition, tackles the long-term challenges that face the ANC as well as the country. It looks at where we come from as a movement, as a 100-year organization, looks at all the historical landmarks that have shaped the ANC, and takes a long-term view about a future of our country. And it is very important, comrades, that we shaped and determined the time and the nature of our revolution. Nobody shaped it for us. It was us in the struggle. I know today, because there's freedom, every other person wants to shape the future of this country, wants to determine everything else, because it is nice. There's freedom, there's democracy. We shaped it when participating in it meant, among others, death, supreme sacrifice. When many who talk more than anyone today never wanted to come near. I said one day, not long time ago, we don't want to tell people where they come from. We don't want to remind them where they come from. But they keep on talking about us every day in the wrong way. They might just force us to describe them very correctly. And we don't want to do so. We don't want to do so. Ours is to build this country. We don't want to do so. We don't want to ask people who are adult, where were they when we were fighting for this thing that they say today they know it better than us. And they even give themselves a very privileged position of knowing the policies better than us. And even of knowing the qualities of leadership better than us. I'm saying we don't want to be tempted to start that process, because we are capable of doing so. But we have an objective that is very noble, to build this country, to be positive about this country. And I'm saying, please, they must not push us. It was not difficult. There are more clever people today who could have been there to help us reach freedom quicker. They were not there. And they see us laughing. They don't think we can be angry. We can. We got angry with the apartheid regime. Very angry. And finally, they saw the truth. And we don't want. Ours is a constructive engagement in the process of the nation building, shaping our future. We need the thinkers to come in. There's time now to come in and make a contribution, positive contribution. Some of the points, comrades, we make, which are important, just to highlight before I come to my common point. There's a common point I have these days, which I'm going to push very hard indeed. We must approach the upcoming Mangaung conference in a similar fashion with other landmark conferences of the ANC, like the 1912 conference. 1912 conference, where the ANC was established, was approached in the most serious fashion. In other words, with a view to find a solution to the national challenge that faced this country at the time. Whilst that was the case, which was understood, that conference, one of the things that it had to do was to elect a leadership. For the first time, the ANC was going to have leadership. Very first conference. It had 3 nominees for the presidency. It was democratic at birth. Some of the details, because people understood the importance of the task, of the challenge, and did not understand the importance of the leader, but the importance of the task of this organization. One of the biggest branches at the time, the delegation from Transvaal, is the one when Makgatu was nominated by his colleagues in the branch, who said, no, let us all support John Dube. Where is that spirit of not looking at individuals, but looking at the task in hand? I'm certain workers have a very serious role to play in that definition, because many things have gone a long way. The 1949 conference was as important. The 1969 conference was as important, as well as 1985 conferences. They were all watershed conferences in the history of our movement. They're not the only ones. There were many, many other conferences that the ANC held. Absolutely critical that we should look back and bring to the fore the challenges that we're faced with. The past 15 to 18 years, our country has experienced a peaceful political and democratic transformation. No doubt this has happened. We are the envy of the world. Everybody wishes he would have been in South Africa. However, there is also consensus that our society has faced fundamental challenges that prevent this society from achieving its goal of an inclusive, non-racial and non-sexist country. And that this centers around the triple challenges, and these challenges are poverty, inequality, and unemployment. These are critical, clear challenges that face us. That's a task at hand. How do we deal with these? And who can deal with this? Is there anyone else except the Alliance? I don't think so. I don't think there's anyone. We are the ones who are tasked to address these challenges. as an alliance led by the ANC. This means that we must build a new national consensus for the next 50 years, which should lay the basis for a second transition of social and economic transformation, building on the foundations of our political transformation. I believe time has come for us to pause and look back and look at what we have done since 1994. Look at it positively and say, where do we need to go from here? What are the bottlenecks? What are the problems? We need a second transition because the first transition was relevant to the political transition, but it is not adequate for social as well as economic transformation phase. In other words, it was the beginning. It was phase one. We must go to phase two. And nobody's going to go there voluntarily. We must lead them there as an alliance, as we led them to freedom. That, of course, goes to the heart of issues we need to talk about, that this conference must deal with. The policy conference of the ANC. What are these issues? There are many. And we need to debate as much as we could. There is a debate, and the debate will continue. What type of economy do we need? And some people think that if we debate this, is going to end when we take a resolution. No. It's going to take a long time. For me to make this point sit firmly in our minds, the communists conducted a social revolution and produced socialism for over 50 years, over 60 years. Yes, for over 60 years. Socialism was practiced with different type of economy. But what happened? We all agreed at the time that the economic issues that have been discussed concluded. But what happened? That says you can't say with one or two resolutions you solve the problem. And it is an issue that will be debated continuously.